Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Pushpendra Singh with us. A brief about Dr. Pushpendra. He has done his bachelor's from Mohanlal Sukhadia University in Chemistry, Botany, Zoology from Udaipur. And then he moved to the education field and did his bachelor's in education B.Ed from Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Agra. During that time, he realized that he really wanted to become motivated towards the research, and he joined Masters in Biotechnology at Bhimrao Ambedkar University, and following the passion for research, then ended up joining PhD at Jalma Institute and received the degree of PhD from Bhimrao Ambedkar University. Then he moved to Switzerland at Swiss Federal Institute of Technology to pursue a postdoc, following which he moved to United States of America at Louisiana State University as a visiting scientist, and then received one of the very eminent fellowship in India, Ramalingaswami Fellowship, and also UGC faculty position at Maharaj Sayaji University in Baroda. Currently, Dr. Pushpendra is Scientist-E at ICMR National Institute of Research in Tribal Health. With this brief introduction, we would like to welcome Dr. Pushpendra on the platform. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raja. This is indeed a privilege for me to be in this series, and I have seen some of those previous invitees in this series, and I find that it is wonderful work that you have been carrying out. Though I do not consider myself to be one of the celebrity to be on this show, but I find this series to be very interesting for those who are actually looking forward to share experience or get to know about others' journey, in case it helps them.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. And this is our small initiative to bring all the researchers at this platform. And we named the series as Researcher Celebrity to celebrate research. So we always say, let's celebrate research. And we see all and every single researcher in the world as our celebrity. So let's start the conversation with, we always ask the first question, that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
So I think this came very natural to me from the very early age, actually, when I think I was in my standard 5th, that somebody asked me what I want to be in my life. And I remember that I, at that time, also said that I want to be a scientist in my life. But I actually didn't know how that will happen or how to actually become a scientist. So having grown up in a southernmost district of Rajasthan, that's Banswara, what I have seen that most people would pursue their bachelor's and then after that they would pursue bachelor in education, because that was very common there to become one of the very goal of education was to become a teacher, actually, at some point in their life. And so I had also this opportunity to take admission in Bachelor of Education in Agra. And at that time, I found some students going for their Masters in Biotechnology course, which were very close by to us. And I interacted with them and I realized that this course is what actually is what I want, actually. So this was a chance, actually, that led me into the field of biotechnology. I was lucky enough to get admission in MSc Biotechnology course in Agra University. And even luckier that our course was actually conducted by the eminent scientists of, or most of the lectures are actually conducted by the eminent scientists of ICMR, National Institute of National Jalma Institute for Leprosy and other microbacterial diseases at Agra. So those scientists were actually very dedicated to teach us all those subjects, because the university didn't have enough teachers at that time, because the course was just started. And we were lucky to get all those eminent scientists teaching us early in the morning at around 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. because after that they have to do their own research work. And our practicals were also conducted on Saturdays or on holidays in that Jalma Institute, and that was very helpful for us to, and that probably helped us in getting this NET exam qualified. 6 or 7 students from our batch of 10 actually qualified for NET exam in their first attempt, and that was very helpful. So during the dissertation work also, I was lucky to get interaction with Dr. V.M. Katoj, who was at the time the director of Jalma Institute, and that actually made me interested in research in drug resistance mechanisms in mycobacteria. So after having the fellowship from CSIR and ICMR, I was lucky enough to get a PhD position under his supervision, and it's very interesting to state it on his birthday today. Actually, Dr. V.M. Katoj's birthday is today on 18th February. So I just had a brief chat with him, and I think this was the luckiest event apart from my selection in a Navodaya Vidyalaya during my early education, and after that having training and mentorship from Dr. V.M. Katoj all through my life was very crucial for my career in life. So that's how basically I entered into the field of mycobacterial genomics. And during that time, though our institute was mainly working on leprosy, my PhD work was on tuberculosis, drug resistance mechanism. So by hosting some of those conferences or the WHO workshops at on leprosy drug resistance mechanisms in our institute, I got a chance to interact with Professor Stuart Cole, who was at that time one of the member of that WHO informal consultation group at our institute in 2006. And during his presentation, he mentioned about the drug resistance mechanisms of rifampicin in Mycobacterium leprae. So during that talk, I had asked how this survival fitness is compromised after drug resistance mutations, and more or less he gave me basically he explained some answers, but later on also we continued our conversation regarding similar topics, and he was relocating from Institut Pasteur in Paris to Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, and at that time he was creating his new research group, and I was lucky enough to get a chance to work with him, and he gave me a similar topic on drug resistance in leprosy and phylogenomics of leprosy. So that's how basically I came into the field of leprosy genomics. Yeah, this is a brief overview of my journey into science from my childhood passion to really becoming one researcher. And I was very fortunate to have very able and motivated mentors who shaped my career and life.
So the role of mentors is well acknowledged by you. And as you mentioned, Dr. Katoj's birthday today. So when a person, a young boy of 10 years or 11 years old, as you mentioned that you decided that you want to become a scientist in 5th standard, that is not something which is very common in India specifically. And then after joining the field of education, pursuing the B.Ed, because most of us, how we follow is like whatever our peers are doing, either the bachelors, medicals, non-medicals, they just follow the friends or the society, that what is hot in that time. But apparently you chose a different path. And today, when you are well-renowned scientist, we'll take a step back and we'll start with the decision that you made for your PhD registration because you were exposed to research during your master's in biotechnology. As you mentioned that the scientists were training you early mornings and experiments on weekends. During that time, what kept you motivated or, motivated you enough to register for PhD?
Thank you. Basically, interacting with the scientists almost on a daily basis during our master's degree, that was, and to see that how well equipped those laboratories were at the time, and knowing them that they are doing excellent research work, uh, that was one of the driving force actually. And those mentors always actually encouraged us to pursue a career in research. And once you are in MSc biotechnology course or any masters in life science course, that is incomplete without having a PhD degree actually, if you want to pursue a career in research, as per our understanding at that time. But as you mentioned that I wanted to be a scientist from a very early age, but that doesn't mean that I didn't had distractions from that path. I almost applied for any permanent position or government position and was lucky enough also to be selected in some of those. But fortunately or unfortunately, at that time, the joining date was kept on postponing, or there were some issues or some delays, and that time actually allowed me to complete my masters. Sometimes because of those delays, I think sometimes when you are not able to get something, that is not always bad actually. For everything that you have applied, if you are not able to get it for whatever reason, even after getting selected or getting not selected, it doesn't mean that uh, looking back at those situations now, it feels that probably that was the best thing that happened to me, that I didn't get what I wanted at that time, because I didn't know what is waiting ahead after a few years. So
Keeping this positive attitude when you joined your PhD, how was the journey for you?
So PhD was in our, so there were 7 or 8 candidates actually, some from microbiology also, that they got their MSc. During their MSc itself, they got their ICMR and CSIR exam qualified for their PhD fellowship. So we were a batch of 7 or 8 students actually who joined their PhD simultaneously. And it was very helpful to have such peers actually with you during troubleshooting, or that actually was very helpful in keep us in keep that keep kept us going actually. We were able to help each other, and actually at that time we were also able to contribute in a lot of things at the institute. And I think PhD training is not about one topic that is on your MSc or PhD thesis. It's more than that actually. It's about how to achieve a set goal and how to solve a problem. And that problem, not part of that problem could be your PhD thesis, but rest of the things actually also give you shape in your career.
Yes.
They help you drive, and they may help you get further directions in after your PhD. So how to basically deal with the day-to-day problems of laboratory, about arranging trainings for students, for completing the diagnostic work timely from the patient sample which we are going to include in our PhD work, and how to actually get those from the field, and arranging all the logistics along the way. So that all actually is a like a kind of package actually. You cannot just say that my PhD work is just working on this research problem, that is my PhD topic. because you have to basically deal with all that comes along with that or during that time. And some of our colleagues would be very uh, reluctant to take additional responsibilities actually. And it seemed at that time that they were going faster in their PhD or were able to do more on their PhD work rather than doing some contribution in organizing a conference or compiling its abstract books and such things. But at the end, most of the rewards that I have from my PhD is actually because of those interactions, because of helping other researchers in getting some proteins or cultures from our microbial repository. That helped us a lot actually later on uh, to interact with all those researchers in different conferences. And I think asking good questions or attending these conferences and asking questions and interacting with those um, speakers is very important, I think. At least in my case, that has actually given me very good opportunities.
So, in words of Dr. T. Adak, he always say that PhD is not a degree, it's a training. It trains you for your rest of the life. And one of the important part which you just mentioned is taking your research, taking time out of your research so that you can be part of extracurricular activities, because these are the things which are very important in your life. Either it is for collaboration or organizing conferences. And as you mentioned about your interactions, I think as you mentioned, it is one of your interactions with your prospective postdoctoral mentor,
Yes,
which
yes.
happened because of these interactions. So I would like to know your thoughts about and suggestions for the current researchers, like students who are doing PhD in India, how they should train themselves, or what are the opportunities they should consider for your future during the time when they are doing their PhD.
So during their PhD, it's always actually good to be publishing some articles timely and then sharing those articles with the labs whose work actually interests you or where you want to go after your PhD, and um, keeping them basically aware that you are what kind of work you are carrying out here, and basically uh, you can also convey your interest to your future potential supervisors, and interacting with them at various conferences or following their work closely and asking them questions which are not actually obviously available in their research papers. So that would basically convey to them what kind of thought process you have. Are you genuinely interested in their research work, or would you be bringing your own thinking process and research ideas about their work? So everybody is actually looking for good colleagues and good team members. And once you have convey them, then the rest of the work would be actually much easier.
Absolutely. I think I would like to mention this to all the viewers and audience who are actively doing their PhD currently. So don't wait till the end of your PhD. As Dr. Pushpendra just mentioned, that timely publication is one of the responsibilities, and also this is aim objective goal of yours, first to get to that PhD degree award. But also one more important thing, as Dr. Pushpendra said, that initiate the early conversations with your prospective mentors or postdoctoral training, if you want to really join a lab, that follow their work. And when you are going for national or international conferences, always see that if they are there, write emails to them, take time to interact with them, okay? Because these are the things which are very important. Papers can take you to a point, but the conversations can speed it up like an enzyme. and then getting into a lab of your own dreams will be easy if you follow some of these set rules. So, Dr. Pushpendra, as you mentioned about your conversation with Professor Cole at your, when he was part of your committee in Agra, after that, when you moved to United States, after that postdoctoral training, what were the thoughts that you wanted to come back to India, or you wanted to explore a different research in United States? What was that thought process which was going on at that time?
So during my postdoctoral training in Professor Stuart Cole's lab at Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, EPFL, Lausanne, we were collaborating on one of the research project with Dr. Richard Truman uh, at the National Hansen's Disease Program at Baton Rouge, which is in the campus of Louisiana State University. So that was about the zoonotic leprosy in armadillos. And those are actually, I was very much fascinated by this observation that nearly 20% of the population of armadillos was naturally infected with leprosy in southern United States, including Texas, Louisiana, nowadays even in Florida actually, a large number of armadillos are found to be naturally infected with leprosy. And this has been known for quite some time actually, but it was not proven that the strains are same between the humans which are interacting with these animals and whether this is a zoonotic spread of disease in those areas. That was not proven to an extent where it would not be considered um, doubtful. So at that time, we were able to prove this by combining different molecular epidemiological tools and using whole genome sequencing approaches. And since this was already known that these animals are infected and the strains are more or less similar, I was not sure that this would get published in a very like it may get published in a routine type of journals. So this was my thinking. But then here comes the vision actually of the people of your mentors. For example, Professor Stuart Cole suggested that we will try this in New England Journal of Medicine, and I thought that maybe this would be um, very ambitious goal actually. But then we followed it, and that was accepted. And it's not only that publishing a paper, but it was then covered by media all over the world that armadillos carry leprosy and it's better to avoid interaction with them. It's good to not eat their meat, especially not a improperly cooked meat. And just after the embargo period of this paper, there were in social media there were so many messages and in newspapers it was this story was covered all over the world actually. Even in Rajasthan newspaper, Rajasthan Patrika newspaper actually in India, they covered this story actually after the embargo period of this paper was over, and we saw its coverage in several languages, and on Facebook and everywhere it was actually people were conveying that they would avoid these type of interactions, and if a study changes people's behavior for their own safety, and if they feel motivated because of this type of evidence, I think that is the real impact of science actually. And even if it seems like it's not very impactful, I think your mentors know how actually this can be conveyed effectively and which journal would be the most suitable. But before that, it's good to have a very meticulous work completed. And for that, if you need collaboration from different team members, for example, if we need a very good representation of our visual representation of our data, and we know that one of the bioinformatician colleague, either in our institute or in another institute, would be able to do it more effectively, then Professor Stuart Cole taught us to not hesitate, and we interacted with them, and that actually helped us in getting this paper published in a first attempt itself.
We always say that research is a teamwork. And as you also mentioned about interdisciplinary research, that if you know how to improve the impact of your research by adding a different perspective into that, and that is something which people currently has started a lot doing collaborations, establishing in necessary expertise and coming together and do those research. When currently everyone talks about translational research, but what can be more helpful and more impactful, as in your case, when you were just doubting about the NEJM, one of the most reputed journals in the field of medicine. So when it got published in the first attempt, as you said, what was the first reaction you had? Because NEJM is dream for all of the people who are working in the field of medicine.
I was overwhelmed actually, but at that time also some people suggested that when I presented this after the publication, some people suggested this could have been submitted to science or nature also. And I said that because this is a more of a medical subject, it should be, it was a good choice to have it in a New England Journal of Medicine. And actually, at that time, I was not even very much aware about how impactful that finding would be because of its publication in medical journal. Because medical fraternity believes though and or follows such publications more closely than science or nature actually.
Yeah. So now we talked about the bright side of research. When you get your paper published in NEJM, everyone is there to congratulate you, as you said, covered by media, all the good things. Let's talk about the failed experiments, the failures in research, how you have dealt with those.
So I think the success actually comes like once in a year or twice, like maybe once after 3 years or 2 years also. So success and failures, I was actually following uh, one of this similar talk by Dr. Subramaniam, I think, Dr. Suresh. He mentioned that there is no real failures in science if you have done your best attempt and you always learn. And I think a failed one of my colleague in EPFL, Dr. Sachin Kotak, who is currently associate professor at the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, he sometimes told me that a failed experiment in science is normal. It's very normal. I think adapting failures in science, or at least in the scientific experiments, is actually very crucial from the very early stage. Every experiment may not work very well. We learn from every experiment and then we plan it or improve it. But repeating the same mistake is not advisable. Let's make new mistake. That's one of the things that I learned from one of this movie, Utopia. So I think learning from the mistakes and failures is very important um, for a career in science, but also in general in life actually.
Yes. So when the stress comes with all those failed experiments, how you have dealt in your life and what you recommend for the students, for the researchers who are facing that problem today.
So I think it's good to discuss actually this type of observations and get timely inputs from your peers or sometimes directly from your mentor actually it's when you are having this type of difficulties. Even then, sometimes it's difficult to get exactly the type of input that you need because that really needs someone's involvement. And if it is very specific problem that you are dealing with, then it's good to also get input from the experts in that area, someone who might have done a similar work or interacting with multidisciplinary team is also sometimes very helpful, because a problem that is very difficult for us may have a very simple solution if you just interact with another type of another expert from a different field. For
That
example,
is so important. Yeah, please.
sometimes the innovative solutions actually come from totally out of the field. Actually, I was reading somewhere that the best of candle makers would not have made a light bulb.
Yes.
So, and today we know that it's actually some those innovations actually come from outside the field. At least those who are changing the field entirely.
No, this is exactly one of the established fact in the field of research, that sometimes, and this I think is the idea behind interdisciplinary research, that when a mathematician comes to biology, they brings a new set of rule which biologists don't either limit themselves or they don't think out of the box. And you correctly mentioned that sometimes the solutions to a very big problem can be so simple. It's just because the person is out of the field and don't know the rule of your fields or the limitations. So they opens up the horizons of it. Absolutely. So now we'll talk about the positions. So you have been now in India for a long time, starting from academia to hardly like hard focused research institute. What do you suggest on the basis of your experience that a researcher should aim after their PhD? What path they should take and what are the necessary preparations they should do before completing their PhD?
Before completing their PhD.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's very important to have this transition phase of postdoc in some labs where whose work actually really interests you, and during that period, it's good to learn about the transition as a PI. So what type of role you need to have, but I think the best productive time is during the postdoc period. And in the last 1 year of your postdoc, I think it's good to think about applying for faculty positions. And again, the same type of principle applies actually, that you keep some of the prospective institutes, keep interacting with the faculty members there, and keeping your eyes open about where you want to go and when there are some openings, and what are their mandates actually. It's very good to choose an institute which has similar type of infrastructure that you want for your research work, and then has the same type of mandate, so that the infrastructure can be easily accessible, or at least has an ecosystem which can enable this type of work. So that's important.
So now we'll take a minute about talking researchers as administrators and communications, because you briefly touched about that, how in their later stage of postdocs they should learn all these things also, because when you are an independent PI, you in research, at least most of the researchers don't get this formal training from everything, getting codes for instruments, and then everyone knows how to perform the experiment, but what they don't get a formal training for is for dealing with the conflicts in the lab. PI mentor conflicts and with the students, and ensuring the success of their student. These are the things which everyone has to learn their own way, but what you have learned and what you can share with the new generation of researchers.
Yeah, I think those type of formal trainings are actually not conducted, but surely during the postdoc work, I think involving the postdocs in this type of works is actually part of their postdoctoral training, even though it may appear that they have to take their time off from the research work for preparing different type of indents or codes or for pursuing the process of instrument purchase. I think this is a very important component of getting trained as a PI or as a researcher, and involving them in reviewing the manuscripts or involving them in day-to-day work of training students, um, and encouraging the students for not only timely publishing but attending conferences and putting their research work and communicating to the peers and getting their feedback is very important.
Absolutely. So now we are talking about the prospective, paths which they should take and the necessary preparations they should do. Now let's talk about getting a faculty position, which you just got. When you are receiving the applications for prospective PhD students, what are the things which you look into an application, and on the basis of that, like, because when you lead a group, people are interested in joining your lab, and this is one of the things which we really, I think this is something which we always say, the technology. So you have seen some disruption from Dr. Pushpendra's side. Let's talk about this time with all the audience, the researchers who are watching this video, that when you are committed to research, when you have made up your mind that you want to do this at least for a short duration of time, when you're enjoying this, one thing which you always should make sure that any field in the life, stress is inevitable. Research, people do talk about the stress in research, but what we believe at Researcher Celebrity and Empowering Science Foundation, that the stress should not be chronic, because when you are submitting your manuscript, the revision for the manuscript, these are the things which always will come, but they should get over also, so that you can maintain a sane balance in, like, everyone is a human being at the first. We all are researchers at the second part. So we all needs to be happy. If research makes you happy, obviously, yes, it is. But if you think that you need some time off, there is nothing wrong in going out, whatever gives you your mental peace. Some people can correlate with outings. Some people feel it at home and not doing anything. You have to decide that what are the things which make you happy. Secondly, it is about the vision that entering into research is like anything which you can say that you are entering into a zone where you don't know what will come on your path after months, years, or in a longer term, like 5 years or 10 years. But what is required is your perseverance, that you should just be there, do whatever it takes. And at this point, when you are enjoying your research, I believe that there is no limitation to it, and it should not be. We'll try to reconnect with Dr. Pushpendra again, and then we'll take from there. So now we have Dr. Pushpendra back with us. So, sir, we were discussing about the roadblocks, like, let's say, with the technology these days, research obviously has gone so fast at a different pace, which it was not true like 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago. What are the things which you suggest or recommend to our researchers, that if there are roadblocks, they should not get disheartened and keep going on?
Yes, I think this is important training from the early stage itself, that in research there would be, the path would not be always very smooth actually. And yes, from your series itself, I was hearing that the most successful ones are the ones who had actually many roadblocks actually in their career, because then they learned to deal with them, to tackle them, to overcome those, and being resourcefulness is actually very important. So yes, the roadblocks actually are part of training, and it's easy to say that to ignore them, but at that time they would always be causing some problem, or those problems may be at different levels actually. Sometimes if it is leading to some financial problems, sometimes it is leading to some personal problems. It may have different type of stress actually. So to deal with them, actually it's good to have good friends actually, to share your feelings with them, and to be friendly with your mentor actually is also very helpful, or to have support system from family or from friends, from the peers. So I think the one of the best thing or solution for this type of things is that you have to have a good friend circle, because it's not always easy to share everything with your family sometime, or even with the mentor might not be available all the time. So having good friends is actually very helpful for this type of things. But having very open conversation with your mentor is also very important for dealing with some of the problems, if those are related to directly from the lab atmosphere.
Absolutely. So, sir, now we are at the edge of the conversation, and I would like to request you to give some recommendations, or what we call here as word of wisdom, to the researchers who are doing PhD or who are doing their postdoctoral degree, how to become a successful researcher in their life.
So from my experience, I think I can just say that it's most of the time it's the hard work which actually takes the leading role rather than the talent. So sometimes it's very easy to see that it's not working, or we are not able to do certain things. Then in that case, having this hard work by our side and this passion for the research keeps us driving actually. So I think hard work and honesty is very important.
Yes.
To be truthful to yourself and to your colleagues and to the lab is a very important quality. And from rather than actually saying from my own words, I think I can just share from my experiences while working with some of the most amazing mentors actually in my life. My PhD supervisor, Dr. V.M. Katoj, he was working tirelessly all his life. Likewise, Dr. Stuart Cole, he was so humble and down to earth. He is always available, very approachable, and very encouraging to all the staff. So having friendly relation with your colleagues and mentors is important. And it's always not about success actually, but to also celebrate the failures actually. And we have celebrated some of the failed Western blots with the students, because that's normal actually. And if you get success, you can celebrate even more actually. But that's nothing should actually discourage you to the point that it takes out a researcher from you. So this is
Absolutely.
all that I want to say.
That's well said, sir. And with this, we'll say that celebrate research is one of the initiatives which Empowering Science Foundation does. And with this, we'll say thank you very, very much, Dr. Pushpendra, for this honest conversation. And I believe that the new generation of researchers will get benefit out of this. And also the would be faculties who are looking actively for getting positions in India will be getting benefited out of this also. We'll say to all the audience, stay tuned for more researcher celebrities conversation. And thank you very much, Dr. Pushpendra Singh, to talking with us and the conversation.
Thank you, Raja, for having me here. This was very interesting experience for me as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.